I'll introduce Mark Singleton, Kevin Colburn, American Whitewater. This won't take long. When I was 16 to 18 years old, I was getting into whitewater paddling. I think, literally true, I was a member of 3 different canoe clubs. Georgia Canoeing Association, Tennessee Scenic Rivers Association, and Tennessee Valley Canoe Club, all at the same time, because that's how you learned about paddling. And these 3 clubs had these awesome newsletters, and it would tell you about the Chattooga River or the Tellico River or other rivers in the region. And that's how people like myself learned where to go and who to hang out with and sign up for club trips, right? Anybody have a similar experience, of course. And what I would keep doing was like, you know, how cool are these rivers and how cool is this instruction? And every now and then somebody would pull out their American Whitewater Journal newsletter, monthly newsletter that would come out, and they would say, oh no, this is where you really learn about stuff. And you'd open that and there would be a story about the Grand Canyon or the Salmon River or somewhere exotic, and it's like, man, this is huge. And so Mark Singleton, who has this past year retired after, I'm sorry, Mark, how many years as executive director?
18, yeah.
18 years as executive director.
Thank you, Mark.
He and I had a chance to hang out because of a project I was working on, and it caused me to look back at some of the AW journals and just appreciate a little more about the journey of American Whitewater over many decades. AW started back well before any of us were paddling for sure, and almost all of us were alive, probably all of us. And yes, all of us. And AW was started, and I'm not going to tell too much of your story, Mark and Kevin, but AW was started to help organize all the separate canoe clubs around the U.S. and help pass down information on instruction and geography of rivers and access points on rivers and so on. And the mission has evolved over the decades. And the great news is that American Whitewater has over all that time gotten more and more effective at advancing the cause. And the causes have shifted a little bit. Now it's a little more about conservation and access. Safety continues. And again, I'm going to let these guys paint that picture for you. But before I ask them to come up, I want to acknowledge Risa Shimoda over there. Risa
New inductee.
was inducted tonight, Art Lady. Risa's done a lot of important stuff.
On her resume.
But she was a critical leader for American Whitewater in the days preceding 18 years ago. And thank you, Risa, for that. And everything else. So, American Whitewater as an institution was inducted tonight. It happened to align with the year that Mark is moving on. Kevin Colburn is senior staff. This guy is the guy that doesn't get a lot of glory. He gets glory a lot if you pay a lot of attention. But you're going to learn about some of the projects, some of the initiatives that AW has accomplished, and some things that are coming up that are vital. And Kevin is the guy in the back room hammering out the deals with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and other federal agencies. And Mark is supported and provided leadership, but Mark, you probably wouldn't disagree, but this guy gets a lot of stuff done.
That's why he's here, yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, so I hope that's enough of an introduction.
Mark skating on.
That's right. Don's got it.
18 years and he never fired me.
Now he's gone, so it's too late. Kevin's boss now lives on the West Coast, so so guys, come on up and give me start talking. Give me about a minute to get your slideshow queued up. But go ahead and take it on, and we'll get the ball
And I'll
rolling.
just say, we'll sound a lot better if you're drinking, so feel free to sneak through and grab a beer.
I thought I was gonna be able to belly up to the bar here, and then I would be the luckiest guy in this room. All right? But, yeah, obviously, I'm Mark Singleton. I wanna thank Mark and Sean and Mike for putting this on and pulling this together, and obviously all of you for coming out here tonight. I mean, it's a real pleasure. I did retire from American Whitewater, and I thought I would be done, and then I got roped back into this when Mark called me and said, "How would you like to do a presentation for the Hall of Fame?" And I went, "Well, I really don't want to do it without Kevin, because he's got so many good projects, and I'll tell you, one of the highlights of our board meetings is the stewardship team, Kevin and others, that give a stewardship presentation to the board, and that's what Kevin's going to do here tonight. But first, one of the great things about being retired is that you can admit your shortcomings, and I don't know all of the past board members that have been on the AW board that are in the room right now. I see Chris Bell over there, I see Risa, I saw Lee, I think Susan Wilson's here. Any other folks that have been board members for AW? It's been a group that has been supported real heavily by Southeast paddlers, and currently almost our entire executive committee is made up of folks from the Southeast. Chris Neuenschwander from Alabama is our president. Brent Austin is our vice president. Aaron Savage is our treasurer. Aaron Savage is our secretary. Brian Jacobson is our treasurer. Melissa Driver is the chair of our development committee. So, our board is very engaged in Southeast activities. So I'm going to run through a few quick slides here. And do I have a clicker, or are you doing
Well,
that
just
for me?
wink at me,
I'll
Mark.
give you the thumbs up. First of all, we couldn't do the project work that we do without the staff that we have, and this is the AW staff. And the important thing to know when you look at this is within this group, there's 147 years of collective experience working on American Whitewater projects. So everyone, on an average, has well more than 10 years of experience, which is just unusual in a nonprofit. Typically, nonprofits are worried about retention and turnover and all of those things. That really hasn't been an issue for us. And the fact that there's so much retained knowledge is really kind of important for getting our projects done. I'm often asked, well, what does this team do really well? And I would say, if this team were a basketball team, we'd be known for how well we can pass. And even though we're distributed all over the country, we share an incredible amount of information back and forth. All right, so somebody may be working on an issue or a project that has a certain thing come up, they can ask somebody else, that information gets shared, it gets passed around. And within this team, it's really diverse. It's everything from river ecologists, PhD fisheries biologists, community planners, economists, fire specialists, community activists. It's a group that has diverse talents that really drives things home. So let's go to the next slide. And you know the outcomes of these projects. Obviously, the Chioa, those of you that have been in the region for a while remember when this didn't have any water in it. When I first moved here in the early 1990s, you can blame John Burton because he hired me to come to NOC, and the Southeast has never been the same. And we would ride our bikes up along the Chioa, and we would look at the Chioa, and it was bone dry. And I would hear stories from Homer or other people in the room about epic times that they had a chance to paddle at Chioa and someone's pants got sucked off. There were epic swimming tales that took place before the Chioa had regular water. But it just looks so inviting, especially on a road bike when you've just done like 50 miles. So anyway, obviously Chioa now has water. We had real early success with the Tallulah, and those things kind of showed us the way. Let me kind of move on to the next slide. And there are landmarks that are gone. This is Dillsboro Dam on the Tuckasegee River, and it's not there anymore, all right? And this was kind of a contentious project for us because the local county was very opposed to the removal of this dam. I live in Jackson County, which is the local county, and the local county spent $500,000 fighting dam removal. And you know, it was frustrating. It was.
Why do they want the dam? Why do they want to keep it?
Scenic. They thought that they could shake out a little bit more money from you, right? That wasn't successful. They spent more money trying to shake out the money they thought they could get. I mean, it was just a catch-22 situation that was really unfortunate. But the thing that we learned in going through this is that in these rural mountain communities, oftentimes change is really hard, and it's human nature. You know, we're very slow to accept change, especially if it's being kind of forced on us. But once change happens, and we can go take a look at the next slide, it's amazing how quickly folks adjust to it. And now, today, in this area, there's a natural river. I hear no one in the local community going, "Gosh, I wish we had that dam." Right? You know, it's what I hear is, "Wow, you know, this is really great." I mean, the river gets used a lot more, and for our interests, we were constantly asked, "Well, why would you care about this one little dinky dam in a section of river that doesn't look like it's all that great to paddle anyway?" But you go upstream 20 miles, and you can hit that next slide, and you get to the put-in of the West Fork of the Tuckasegee. And, you know, those of you that have been there, you just know how powerful that place is. You know, by the time you hike in, you get to the put-in eddy, you know, you got your skirt on, you're soaking wet because all of the mist from this waterfall has just totally drenched you. And, you know, the West Fork is a very, very special place. One of the just drop-dead gorgeous put-ins across the country. You know, so, you know, we've been able to kind of work through these various issues, and let me move on to the next slide here. And large part of it is due to Kevin, all right? And Kevin drives the program here in the Southeast, and he's going to give a stewardship presentation that we would normally give at a board meeting, with updates from the region. And the thing that you have to recognize when Kevin does this is there are 5 other stewardship directors that could give the same presentation for their region, right? And what the Southeast has enabled AW to do is cut our teeth on what this regional model of stewardship looks like and roll it out across the country. You know, we started here in the Southeast with the regional program, you know, through things that we just had to deal with. We had to move the office location out of DC to the Southeast. It was probably one of the best things AW ever did because it cut our financial responsibilities and it minimized our overhead so that organizational resources could flow through the work that was happening in regions. And it made us very efficient. We were able to then establish these regional directors back 18 years ago now, and by the time the pandemic rolled around and everyone's going, "Oh, we got to work virtually, oh, we got to work remotely," we already had a dozen years of experience in terms of how to do that. And I can tell you, it's a lot easier to do it today with the Google suite of tools than it was 15 years ago when we were exchanging manky Word documents that had been redlined a dozen times with Excel sheets that had like comments inserted all over it, you know. So anyway, we've gone a long way. Technology certainly helped us, and working remotely has really helped us because it gives us a footprint that's national. Now, when you look at this slide, look at that concrete abutment that Kevin is standing on, and when you see the photos of Great Falls, look for that concrete abutment. It's the piece of concrete that's the furthest upstream. And you'll see how it's fit together here. Kevin in this photo is looking downstream in a manky river channel. It's all grown up with alders and other stuff. and he's going, what can this thing be? And he'll show you.
All right. It's really tempting to do this presentation from behind the bar. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. All right, so yeah, I'm going to give kind of an overview of a few of the projects that are more forward-looking, that maybe you know about, maybe you don't, but there's, just kind of a handful of things we're working on. So Great Falls of the Catawba, it's between Charlotte and Columbia. It's one of the last dewatered river reaches in the southern Appalachians. It's really far south. It's like Spanish Moss, hot reptilian south. You can buy like a 3.2 Craftsman for 30 grand in this town. It's a depressed town called Great Falls, an old mill town with a dry river. The river's been dry for well over 100 years. I've been working on this for over 20 years now. I've been with AW 21 years. We did a flow study in 2002 or 3, probably 2003, signed a settlement agreement in 2005, and I've been working on it ever since to just actually make it happen. There will be water in March of next year in this river. It's class 3, it's class like 2, 3, it's beautiful. I'll just share one of the fun things about it as like someone who's always problem solving and trying to fix problems. We didn't know how to get people over this dam and around the diversion dam that shunts water into the generators down into the river. And Duke Energy didn't know how to get water over that dam. So I had this, well, first of all, we got out and got in. We did not get in trouble for running the dam during the flow study, but we did it anyway. And I started to think, like, could you just like notch the dam and paddle through it and like make a channel? So using slide film and early Photoshop in 2004, I did this wonderful piece of artwork. And he said, maybe we could notch the dam, make a whitewater channel, put a little surf wave at the bottom, and we'll all have fun. And then fish can go up, water can go down, boaters can go, it's perfect. And Duke said, hell no, that's crazy, rightfully so. And for 15 years, it just was a dead idea. And then about 3 years ago, their idea of a trail turned out just to like portage the dam like you normally would. Didn't work. There's some like sensitive areas. They were having problems with like their designs for the dam. And now, here's what's in the river now, which is this beautiful, interesting creature of a creation that Scott Shipley designed, where this is basically what I pitched theoretically with Photoshop when I was like 25. So you'll see a big channel on the left that cuts across that way. It'll have 4 waves, and you'll be able to paddle every day of the year on either 450 or 850 CFS down that channel and enjoy the remnants of Great Falls, 2 miles of beautiful class 2-3 whitewater. And then during releases, you'll be able to do that or take this paperclip channel, which was all Scott Shipley. They just put water in it for the first time last week to see what it looked like. It'll have 25% more flow than this. And then that big channel in the back is gonna have lots of water, like 3,000 CFS, So really exciting project. Releases start in March. There will be water every day for the rest of all of our lives. So really neat. And the whole like concrete thing is kind of neat, but really the story about Great Falls is the river. The river downstream is beautiful. They were building the Charlotte Whitewater Park, which is a cool thing. At the same time I was trying to restore water to this beautiful old natural river, and I was like, like pinching pennies to try to make these natural flows happen. And it's a cool river. So there's Jack Diddy out there surfing last summer on a trail day with me. And it's not the only dewatered river reach left. The Hiwassee Dries. How many people in here have paddled the Hiwassee Dries? Yeah, handful. Oh yeah, nice. Good luck. Yeah.
No, I mean, good luck. I mean, are you making progress with
Yes.
TVA on that?
Yes. Well, I have the dream team. So I have the right people in place. TVA's in the right place. I'm pushing hard, and I think we're going to do something. So we'll see. But it's the uphill lift. You're not crazy. You're right. But I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in the next 3 years.
Hopefully we'll get some test flows next year, that's my goal.
In
And-
1995, that was described to me by a TVA person as liquid gold.
Yeah, $500,000 a year is what they told me last week. So that's what they think they make off the river. But how many rivers if you own a private dam, you're Duke Energy, you can't have a dam with zero water. You can't, it's not okay. You know, like they have to share. So we're gonna work on that with them.
TVA doesn't have to answer to FERC, do they?
No, they don't, but they might have to answer to some other people, which is part of what we're doing. We're finding levers to pull. So that's that. Hiwassee dries. There's only so many like big dewatered river reaches left. There's like Pigeon, Hiwassee, Great Falls, and Catawba. There's not many. But every year we work on scheduling the releases on much more common rivers that you all paddle all the time, like the Tuckasegee here. Family friendly, class 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 5. And it's just a big part of what we do. I work with Kat, we were in meetings together. Yeah, we work together with the power companies and with the public to make these releases really matter, to bring the most benefit we can. Just a good reminder, it's not always about new stuff. All the stuff that we've ever done still takes work, because water in the river has value, and as soon as you stop cashing that check, somebody else wants it. So we're always there. And some dams don't make sense anymore. And we are working on dam removals, as Mark mentioned, Dillsboro. We worked on the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan infrastructure bill you probably heard about, to get some of that money allocated towards dam removal. And you don't just get the money, you gotta like put it to work and like find the good projects that matter to people. And we're working on projects around this region to try to drive some funding, and just like what dams could come out that are outdated, there's problems with them, they're like kind of ready to go. So we're working on this dam, which is Ela Dam on the Econo-Lefty River. We're just playing a small supporting role. Other folks are working on it, which is great. But this dam could come out and you could have a whole new run on the Econo-Lefty, just upstream of the Tuckasegee. It'd be like probably nice class 2-3 run. I'm working on a little dam removal in Hominy Creek, which is like 4 miles from here. That's looking pretty positive. And then of course folks are talking about removing Craggy Dam on the French Broad. Yeah, it should be great. That's just hyper local, but dam removal is a big thing. There's only so many dewatered rivers, but the real future for like new paddling opportunities in the southeast is going to be dam removal. It's all the rivers that are both under dams and also just interrupted by dams. They're not a good whitewater run because there's a reservoir, a diverted reach, and then kind of a messed up reach downstream, and dam removal takes care of all of that. All right, so not all rivers have dams, thankfully. Some are pristine headwater rivers. We're working there to make sure that those areas stay pristine. I've been working on the Nantahala-Pisgah Forest Plan for, I think, 10 years. All these projects take forever. That's why I've been working for AW for 20 years, because you don't get anything done in less than a decade. But through the Nantahala-Pisgah Forest Planning process, we're trying to find a bunch of rivers eligible for wild and scenic, which means the Forest Service will protect them for the next 20 years, so they could maybe be designated someday. Really good interim protection. This is the West Fork of the Pigeon. It's one of the rivers that will be added as eligible when the new forest plan comes out in January. It was going to be November, but the Christmas tree for DC is coming from the Pisgah, so the forest plan is delayed 3 months. It's a maple tree. I don't know how that's possible. Surely the people in Atlanta are going to carry the tree. I don't know. But this also gives us another nibble at the Upper Chattooga apple, because part of the Upper Chattooga is in North Carolina, and the paddling prohibitions only exist in the forest plan. So they're amending the forest plan. So they're going to have to redo the boating bans on the upper half of the Upper Chattooga, and we've told them to knock it off. So we'll see what they do. But you just keep saying, I always say, like, keep bringing normal to the weird party. So that's what I keep doing through forest planning. And findings of eligibility for wild and scenic is good, but designation is great. So wild and scenic designation is the marquee river conservation tool. It was hatched by grizzly bear biologists and boaters and all kinds of interesting river nuts, back in the 1960s, 1968. It was when the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act came on, It is the tool to prevent dams forever. It's what we got. It's the counterbalance to dam building in this country. There are 400 dams in western North Carolina alone that are 25 feet or more. We have 4 wild and scenic rivers. We need more. That's not balanced. So we've worked with Matt and others on a Nolechucky designation. Still going to work on that. Going to keep working on that. Kind of hit the skids because of some opposition. That's just the world we live in right now. We think that there's other opportunities in western North Carolina that maybe can kind of move forward, and then maybe the Nole can follow along, you know, once it becomes more of a movement and there's legislation. But for now, we're going to shift, and we're working on other rivers. This is the North Fork of the French Broad, which would make an awesome wild and scenic river. Local people, you know, farmers, churchgoers, just local folks beat dams that were proposed on these rivers in the Upper French Broad River, you know, 40 years ago, and we want to finish what they started by finding some of these rivers around here wild and scenic. Just takes federal legislation, no big deal. State legislation in Tennessee, we're working on that. We designated the first state scenic rivers, so it's not federal. It's not quite as good as federal, but it's good. A few years ago, first in 17 or 18 years, it just was kind of a dead program, and we brought it back, and we've done 2 installments of state scenic rivers in Tennessee. We're working on another one. We're thinking Daddy's Creek, we're thinking Caney Fork, not sure what else. But hopefully just year after year, we'll just kind of add rivers to the state scenic river system in Tennessee, really getting the Cumberland Plateau and just that whole system kind of at least celebrated, if not completely protected. The state scenic river designation is super, super solid. All right, 2 more things. So Great American Outdoors Act, there's a bunch of money, and it started out as the Restore Our Parks Act. And a bunch of us went to DC, and we did the Hill visits, and we said, you know what, people also recreate on the National Forest. Can we get this Restore Our Parks Act added to the, or get the National Forest included too? So what this act did was provide funding for the federal agencies, Park Service, Forest Service in this case, to fix broken stuff, deferred maintenance, you know? So trails that are falling apart, things that are eroding. This was money to help the agencies fix stuff that they had been ignoring for far too long, causing a lot of erosion, causing things to be closed that we wanted open. That did work, so there's funding available now, and these projects are starting to happen. But again, it's like, you gotta make it happen in the places that matter. So we're trying to help the agencies find projects that matter to you all and to rivers. And one example is Baby Falls on the Tellico, where if you may not have been there in a while, I don't know, I hadn't been there in a long time, but the whole left side under this trail that people are walking on is profoundly like overhanging and undercut. And it's gonna collapse, and like all of it's gonna go in the river. Maybe take out part of the road, who knows? So they wanna fix this, they wanna do an observation deck, because so many people are hiking down there. And I said, observation deck. I made the face that Kat just made, like, oh God, you know, no, like, don't put us in a fishbowl. So I just told him, don't put us in a fishbowl. You know, I like talked to Forest Service and sent him a letter and had some follow-up. And I said, you know, think about, you know, as a scenic overlook, think about the scenery from the river. The river is not just scenery from the road. The road is scenery from the river. And like, think about making whatever you do blend in with the natural environment, make it small, you know, think about like Linville Falls overlooks, not some grandiose wooden structure that looks like crap from underneath. So that's the kind of work we do. It's like sometimes it goes all the way from the federal level of like roaming the halls in DC down to like talking with the recreation specialist about specific like rocks along the waterfall that we all love. So it's kind of neat that way. All right, so last thing, you know, Mark mentioned that we are continue to work on river safety and information. It's kind of our roots. So this is a picture on the right of our new National Whitewater Inventory website. It came out a few years ago. Same data, that crowdsourced information on 6,000 whitewater runs in the country that people like you have added over the years, photos and descriptions. We added a map element to that, updated the look and feel a lot. We're gonna keep working on it. But the cool thing I wanted to mention to all of you is that we just kind of fixed and improved the system for adding trip reports to a river page. So you can click on any river on in our website, you'll see a trip report tab. You can click add trip report. It's really easy. You can add photos and stories and a date, and it's sorted chronologically. So for those of you that have older stories of rivers that are really neat, you know, you can say who you were paddling with. That you don't have to have pictures if you don't have them, but it's a fun way to tell stories and like share some of the early exploring that the modern paddling community did on these streams. So check it out, and you know, soon hopefully we'll get some trip reports that are like dated pretty old, and it'll be pretty fun to read when you go to explore a river. And then yeah, we've been doing safety films, like doubling down on safety information, especially for folks curious about paddling, just getting into paddling, helping them do it in a way that's safe, safer, in a way that like keeps them in the sport and doesn't drive them away because it's scary. You know, like we want people to have positive experiences on the water right off the bat and welcome them into our community in a good way. So with that, that's kind of a few things we're working on. There's a bunch more, but those are the ones I'm excited about.
Important part of the evening, at least for me. So, you know, when I look back at the stories of the people that have gone before, which we saw a little bit about, and I look out here and see the contributions that so many people have made, and the people that are no longer with us and what they've done, you know, there are stories of protection and access and flows and dam removals that run throughout. And as we think about the people here that love being on rivers, as we think about, our experiences, it's on those rivers and others that make this region of the country and the world incredibly special. And American Whitewater is doing phenomenal things to get the work done through the years past, today, and into the future. And the people in this room, I think, should consider their own role in what's going to go forward here. So consider your own role with American Whitewater, whether you're a member today or not, whether you make charitable donations in excess of your membership today or not, and just how much you do of all that. I know from my own experience in nonprofits that the fundraising side of what these guys need to do to get this kind of stuff done is incredibly challenging, and it's not necessarily the fun part of the job. So let's make that part of the job easy for them, okay? Let's go home. AmericanWhitewater.org is a well-designed website, not just to help you know how to get to and from, to put in and take out, or file a trip report, but to make a damn contribution and to make sure your membership is current. So if you remember nothing else about tonight, it should be go home and join up and donate generously, okay? Let's see a show of hands for people that love that idea. So you guys stand here for another night. I'll be right back.
So do I owe you $20 at the door, Mark?
You're hired.
I thought it was 10% of all money raised.
There you go.
No. Kat and I and our family, we try to be generous with AW, just like I hope everybody does. Mark Singleton, in honor of your retirement and your contributions, this is a paddle handcrafted by Fritz Orr. Where's Fritz? Where's Fritz?
Stand up.
Steve Scarborough, Homer King are here. Where are you guys? You're awesome paddle makers too. But you guys have shut down your shops. This is the guy that has his shop going, so Fritz, you got to make the paddle. But look at the inlays here, the contrasting wood tones. This is for Mark Singleton in honor of all of his work. And
very surprised, and I can't thank you enough. Fritz, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be scared to use it. But it's gonna have to get wet.
How about flat water only? I got a Carlisle you can use on white water.
I got
34 years of service.
It's not American flat water.
Well, thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mark, Kevin, awesome presentation. John Bird will tell you.
We're almost done. That was wonderful. All right, so we're almost done, but I got 5 minutes, and I'm going to fill it. The 8 new people who were inducted in the Hall of Fame this evening, 2 of them have passed. Lee Russell died, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. Jeff and I were just describing 2019 was a tough year. Aurelia died in 2019. Terry died in 2019. His dad died in 2019. Lee Russell, who it turns out if you read her bio, she basically is, along with her husband, responsible for making the Obed Emery Wild and Scenic River. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
And then also what else?
Big South Fork.
The Big South Fork. That's what I
Yeah.
was trying to. Steve was her
Bob
nominator.
Benner died in that period too.
Who did?
Bob
Yeah.
Benner.
Bob Bennett, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so Lee Russell is a person who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and because Steve nominated her, she's in. So I'm kind of making a plug for this year's class and for 2 years from now, because there were some we had 19 nominations, we ended up with 8 inductees, and part of it was the quality of the nomination itself. Was there supporting documentation? Were people serious about it? And there were a bunch of really wonderful nominations. The other one, who's posthumous, is Will Leverett's mama, Pat Bell Leverett, who died 20 years ago, who was probably the first person to run the whole Nantahala other than Nantahala Falls. Will insists Frank Bell wouldn't let him run Nantahala Falls in his wooden and canvas boats in 1945, which is when they ran the Nantahala. So Pat was the original director of Camp Green Cove. She was one of the leaders at Camp High Rocks. One of those early females inspiring other females to get into this outdoor world. So Pat was, I knew her way back in the day. She was an inspiration to a lot of us. So what I want to do, at the risk of fouling up some of the bios, is invite the new inductees up one at a time. Alan, will you come up? Alan Stansel is one of our new inductees. I know you all saw him. I know you all saw his bio. But it was really fast, and I can't read that fast anymore. How many of you all ever paddled or owned or had a dancer? Dancer guy. Right? This is the guy who designed and thought up and came up with the idea of the 11 or 11.5 foot dancer from scratch. So he's the guy who started that. He was a early designer at Perception and then started Liquid Logic. I'm going to just do some highlights because I don't want to leave everything out. So Alan is one of our new folks, and are you retired now?
Yes.
All right. Jeff Tallman, can you come up? Jeff Tallman is somebody I'd never met before tonight. Jeff is probably the single person most responsible for our ability to paddle the Pigeon River these days, because he's the one who took the power company to task and got him to clean it up. Is that?
That's somewhat overstated. I made a unique contribution, but there were others who were hugely important as well.
Well, you were a filmmaker and a holding them to task kind of guy. So if you want to
Being humble.
Yeah, if you want to be an example of the effort and energy it takes to accomplish something huge, which is to make a river available to the rest of us, here's your guy. Risa, would you come up? So we're going to end this in a second, and these people will be here, and then you can gather and learn a little bit more about him. Risa Shimoda is one of the most important, productive, powerful people in the world of river organizations, river conservation. She was a 7-time competitor in the Freestyle World Championships. This is no chump on the river here. This is one of the best female paddlers you'll ever see. So we were thrilled to get Risa involved. Then we have the open boaters. Robert Harrison, come on up. Robert Harrison has lived around and been on the Chautauqua who knows how many times, but whenever we talked about insane river runs that nobody would do in a deck boat, somebody said, well, Robert already did it in an open boat. So he did a bunch of that stuff, a bunch of first descents.
The myths are Not even.
Myths are true. We're gonna-
No, they're not.
However, alongside Robert, or in the same realm of open boat expertise, is Nolan Weitzel. Nolan? You can find all sorts of fabulous pictures of these guys going vertical in boats, either full of or not with any flotation in them. These are guys who led the whitewater revolution and just did some incredible forced descents and kept the open boat in our public consciousness. And then the last I want to introduce is Roger Knott. Roger, come on up. Roger. Roger and Payson are the only two guys here older than me. And Roger has been a key driving force inside the GCA, the Georgia Canoe Association, for more than 40 years. I believe his bio says that he has led a river trip once a month for 40 years. He has been on the river with thousands and thousands of people and has inspired them to take up canoeing. He's selflessly given himself to the club system, in this case the GCA, and there may be more I don't know about. So these are the guys who we've inducted in 2022, and I tell you, I'm very proud. Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing. Yes, I was part of the founding partners of Liquid Logic, but Steve Jordan here and Shane Benedict was also founding.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah. One of my observations is the humility and the sharing of grace of all these people has been constant throughout. So thank you for that, Alan. So yeah, so now you know who these folks are. You got a chance to ask them questions, learn more. I learned a lot more than I knew about some of them just early this evening. So ask them what they've done, learn some more. These are fabulous folks to be around. And I think we're done, right? Mike, anything else?
Let's thank Mark for his HOF.
Mark is led. This is really important. Mark was the single driving force to make sure this Hall of Fame thing happened. He's the organizer. He's the one who did the work behind the scenes. He's the one who held us to our schedule, caused the process to be as effective and as objective as it was. And he thinks he's retired, but we'll drag him back in a couple of years to help us out. So with that, Mike, thank you. Debbie, thank you. Have a nice evening. Thanks for being here, you guys.